Dan Misri here, talking for Total Ownership Tech Project Management. Any project manager today needs to know about Scrum and Agile. It's got various words. Even Kanban board is interchangeably sometimes used with Scrum and Agile. What are Scrum and Agile? It comes from this book here, Scrum, The Art of Doing Twice the Work in Half the Time, by Jeff Sutherland, the co-creator of Scrum, or a co-creator of Scrum. So this is where it all began, and this is the book you need to read. It explains where it came from, what motivated it, the idea of the big Gantt chart being something that is almost never followed. When's the last time you created a project plan in a Gantt chart and you followed it, and that's how the project unfolded? It never happens. And all Scrum or the Agile approach is doing is recognizing that this waterfall method very rarely works. It may work in a highly structured project or a repeatable process, but then it's barely even worthy of the name project. It's a repeatable BAU, business as usual process. The idea of a project is it's a once-off. So when you look at the definitions of project, they're all about something that's being done once, and after it's done, the team is disbanded and moves on to something else. Because of this once-off nature of projects, it's hard to predict exactly what will happen. That doesn't mean you shouldn't create a Gantt chart. That doesn't mean you shouldn't plan. But Scrum takes into account the fact that projects are, by their nature, nearly always unpredictable. Or if they seem to be predictable at the beginning, they don't work out that way. And I've certainly got a couple on the go right now that are evidence of this, and I'm sure that you have as well. So this book, Scrum by Jeff Sutherland, explains that through a lot of management research going back decades, they discovered this problem of projects overrunning on cost, overrunning on schedule, and what to do about it. So this is really what Scrum is about. It's what are your immediate steps, and know that in the future, you know less about what is going to, what your environment's going to be. The further into the future you go, what you know about is what's right in front of you, and you should plan on this relatively short-term basis. You can have these several relatively short-term plans that land where you need to land, but if you can take this flexible approach sprint by sprint, then you're more likely to be dealing with the reality of the situation rather than creating something that's effectively fantasy at the beginning. You can do that at a high level, but there's little point spending a lot of time on something that is really just out of your imagination. It's better to get into the action and actually start the work, the short-term steps. And as you move forward, you learn more, and then you can plan the next step with more accuracy and more confidence. And it's more likely to actually pan out somewhere close to the way that you expected it to. Once you finish that sprint, then you know more, as in, for example, you've finished the development now to a point that you're comfortable with, the features that you're comfortable going live with this release with are complete. And so now you're ready to test. So now how do we plan the testing? Because you know what you need to test now. Before you started the development, you didn't know precisely what you needed to test or what you would need to test. You knew you'd need to do testing. You knew which features you wanted at that point, but you didn't know which features you were actually ultimately going to develop because of all the problems that developers encountered. So maybe some of the features you wanted at the beginning aren't there, and some of the features that you didn't dream were possible actually were very possible, and now you've got those to test as well. So now you can form your test plan based on what was actually developed rather than what you wanted to have developed a month prior before the development had even begun. So at a high level, this is really what Scrum is about. This is what Agile is about. And there are many methodologies to implement it, which would be the subject of another video. Thanks very much.